Welcome back, dear friends, to this channel. I am 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐸 from 𝐼 Company. In this tutorial, we are going to be talking about the network layer. So here we are going to be talking about the network layer in the TCP/IP and OSI network model. Before we get started, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. So what is the network layer? The network layer is that layer that allows different networks to communicate with each other through devices called routers. But before we proceed, there are some important definitions that we need to know. The first one is, what is an internetwork? It is a collection of networks connected to routers, and the most common or famous of the internet work is the internet. Also, you have to note that on a local area network or LAN, are not communicate with each other through their physical MAC addresses. And in most cases, the MAC addresses are being determined by the vendors of the hardware. The next thing we will talk about are IP addresses. So what is an IP address? It is a 32-bit long number made up of 4 octets, and each octet is normally described in decimal numbers. For example, we have an IP address here of 12.34.56.78. You have to note that each bit of data or a single octet in this IP address can represent all decimal numbers from 0 to 255. So this IP address converted in binary give us 12 in 401100 34 201 3011 34 201 3010 56 20 31 30 78 01 00 310. And as I said earlier, you have to note that the IP address belongs to a network or belongs to the network, not to the device attached to that network. Types of IP addresses. And before we get to the type of IP addresses, it's important to note that IP addresses are distributed to different companies and organizations. Therefore, they are not determined by the hardware vendors, as we said earlier. So for the type of IP addresses, we have two types. We have dynamic IP addresses and we have static IP addresses. Dynamic IP addresses are usually reserved for clients, while static IP addresses are reserved for servers and network devices. Nevertheless, it is not true in all cases. Then we are going to talk about IP version 4 address classes. Here you have to note that IP addresses can be split into two sections. We have the network ID section and the host ID section. For the important definitions here, we have to know what an address class system is. And an address class is simply a way of defining how the global IP address is splitted up. There are three primary types of address classes. We have class A address classes where the first octet is used as the network ID and the remaining three octets as the host ID. Class B address classes in which the first two octets is used as the network ID and the remaining two as the host ID. Class C address classes in which the first three updates are used as the network ID and the last update is used as the host ID. Then it's important that you should understand the IP version 4 address classes table, which will help you to identify the class to which an IP address belongs. So you can see that IP address classes ranges from class A to class E. Starting with class A, the leftmost bit is 0 and the starting IP address is 0 and it ranges to 127 for class B. The leftmost bit is 10 and the starting IP address is 128 and it ranges to 191 for class C. The leftmost bit is 110 and the starting IP address is 192 and it ranges to 223. For class D, the leftmost bit is 110. The starting IP address is 224 and it ranges to 2. The starting IP address is 224 and it ranges to 239. And we have class E. The leftmost bit is 1111. The starting IP address is 240 and it ranges to 255. The next thing you need to know is the address resolution protocol, the 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐥𝐥𝐨𝐰. So what is the address resolution protocol? It is a protocol used to discover the hardware address of a node with a certain IP address. Following, we are going to talk about subnetting and subnet maps. We will start with the definition of subnetting. So subnetting is simply the process of taking a large network and splitting it up into many individual and smaller subnetworks or subnets. The next definition is the subnet mask. So a subnet mask is simply a 32-bit number that is normally written out as 4 octets in decimal. Before we proceed, you will have to note that a subnet ID is calculated using what is known as a subnet mask. And earlier I gave you the definition of a subnet mask. So a subnet mask is a binary number that has two sections. We have the first part of the subnet mask, which is made up of all ones that tell us what we can ignore when computing a host ID, and of the next part, which is all zero that tell us what to keep. For example, if we have an IP address of 9.100.100.100, looking at this table, you can see the IP address in binary and the subnet mask in binary. So clearly you can see that in this example, the first update, which is 9, the second and third update, which are 100, 100, will be ignored. Whereas the remaining 8 bits is what will be taken into consideration as far as the host ID is concerned, or in computing the host ID. For an example, if we are given an IP address of 9.100.100.100 and a subnet mask of 255.255.255.224, in binary 255 will be equal to 81 and 224 will be equal to 111.000. So you can clearly see that the first three updates are ones, are 8 ones in binary, and the last update is 111.000. This means that in a short form, we can write the IP address 9.100.100.100 slash 27, taking into consideration the subnet maps. So how is the 27 gotten? The 27 is simply gotten by adding the different ones that are in the subnet maps. So if you look at this example, we have uh, eight ones. We have eight ones times three plus three ones, which give us a total of 27 ones. Because we have 255, which is equal to 812, the next octet, which is equal to 8 ones, the third octet, which is equal to 8 ones, plus the three ones in the fourth octet. That gives us a total of 27 ones. That is why it is slash 27. So that gives us a total of 16 possible host ID that can be used in this example. So thank you once more for watching this video, and if you have any question, make sure you drop them in the message. And remember, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. We meet in the next content.